Something in your home is going to break. A washing machine, a winter coat, work shoes, and you won't know how to fix it. You'll replace it, because that's what everyone does now. Your grandparents would have repaired it in an hour, because one unnecessary purchase meant less food on the table. Those forgotten ways kept families from ruin. The cost of losing them is just now coming due. Household bills now consume 47% of the average family's disposable income, demanding over $3,200 every single month. In this thin margin environment, a sudden breakdown is a crisis. Imagine the heating element in your washing machine failing on a Tuesday night, or your winter boots splitting on the wet pavement. For a household living paycheck to paycheck, there is no easy path. The default response is to pull out a credit card or click a Buy Now Pay Later button for a replacement. Modern life has trained us to buy another one rather than maintain what we already have. But with credit card interest rates hovering around 18% and Buy Now Pay Later fees adding up to 30% of the purchase price, a simple replacement quickly becomes a long-term debt trap. A broken appliance reveals a deeper vulnerability. It shows a household stripped of its defense mechanisms, entirely dependent on a market that grows more expensive by the day. This is where modern convenience becomes dangerous. When you lose the ability to maintain what you own, you surrender control over your own hard-earned money. You are left exsanimé, paying a premium just to keep your household from falling apart. This exposure is the silent tax of the modern consumer, slowly draining your security one discarded item at a time. During the Great Depression and the lean years of the Second World War, repair was never a choice, a leisure activity, or a quaint weekend hobby. It was a rigorous survival discipline. Generations of families faced a harsh convergence of mass unemployment, severe material shortages, inflation, and government-mandated rationing. In this environment, survival depended on a fundamental shift in how people viewed physical possessions. Every coat, every shoe, and every tool was treated as a physical vault of stored labor and stored money, a direct extension of the wages already earned and the security already built. Purchasing a replacement was not as simple as clicking a button or tapping a card. It meant actively pulling cash out of a razor-thin household reserve. A needless purchase did not just strain a budget. It meant less food on the table, an unpaid utility bill, or zero protection when a genuine medical emergency struck. To discard an item prematurely was to throw away the hours of physical sweat required to buy it in the first place. Our grandparents did not repair everything because they were poor. They repaired everything because they understood how quickly wastefulness could make a family poor. By extending the life of a single winter boot with a handmade leather patch, or darning a woolen sock for the third time, they kept precious capital inside the home. This daily maintenance was a quiet domestic fortress built against a volatile outside world, protecting families from falling into the trap of destitution. This protective fortress did not stand alone. It was supported by a dense local neighborhood network. Daily life was kept functional by an entire ecosystem of specialists. Every town and city block hosted tailors, cobblers, watchmakers, furniture repairers, bicycle shops, and appliance repair shops. These small storefronts were ordinary, indispensable fixtures of the community, turning worn leather and broken gears back into working possessions for a modest fee. What could not be sent out was quietly resolved at home. Families maintained their own households as a matter of routine, passing practical wisdom down to the next generation. Under the warm glow of a kitchen light, a grandmother darned woolen socks with steady hands, while a grandfather clamped a split wooden chair in the cellar. Children grew up watching these small, repetitive acts of preservation, helping with simple tasks and slowly absorbing a culture of self-reliance. This domestic labor was not a specialized hobby or an occasional chore. It was a rhythmic, daily habit integrated into ordinary domestic life, ensuring that nothing of value was discarded without a fight. This domestic self-reliance was physically supported by the design of the objects inside the home. Older possessions were constructed with metal screws, solid wood, heavy metal fittings, and durable fabrics, materials built to be disassembled and worked on. Today, household goods are increasingly glued, sealed, or engineered around brittle plastic and non-replaceable electronic assemblies. This shift forces immediate disposal, quietly draining domestic savings through a constant cycle of replacement. Over a single year, the ledger of small failures adds up. A $45 electric kettle, a $120 pair of shoes, a $180 winter coat, a $250 vacuum cleaner, and a $130 bedside table. Individually, these purchases seem manageable, easily hidden behind same-day delivery subscriptions, credit cards, and buy-now-pay-later payment plans. But together, they stack into a silent, compounding drain of thousands of dollars. Our grandparents did not repair everything because they were poor. They repaired everything because they understood how quickly wastefulness could make a family poor. What happens when the income stops, the credit limit is reached, or the next replacement suddenly costs twice as much? Dependence on continuous retail supply chains and constant income becomes dangerous the moment a household's financial safety net disappears. By the late 1960s, the economic environment shifted. Mass-produced imports flooded the market, making new purchases temporarily cheaper than hiring a local craftsman. Post-war advertising quickly seized on this transition, training consumers to associate brand-new items with personal success and social status, while casting mended goods as a source of quiet embarrassment. As demand plummeted, the local repair shop, once an essential community anchor, slowly vanished from neighborhood streets, taking 62,000 independent shoe cobblers with them. Inside the home, the generational chain of survival broke. Schools phased out practical training, parents grew busier, and children stopped learning how to patch a worn coat, sew a seam, or oil a basic gear. Pride in long-term maintenance was systematically replaced by the swift convenience of immediate disposal. But the habit we lost next may be the most expensive of all. It was the quiet art of active prevention. Households maintained an organized system of foresight, not mindless hoarding, saving wood scraps, jars, screws, and string as raw materials for future survival. Textiles moved through a slow, disciplined cycle of decay. A child's coat was altered for a younger sibling, then turned into an apron, a patch in a quilt, and at last, a cleaning rag. But the greatest savings did not come from the repairs themselves. They came from everyday preservation, oiling steel tools, polishing leather boots, and catching wear before it became a crisis expense. Never replace something automatically before understanding why it failed. First, determine if the object is truly broken or simply dirty or clogged. Check if replacing one small component can restore it, or if it can be tightened, glued, or patched. Simple tasks like sewing a button, tightening furniture joints, or clearing a vacuum filter require no training. Yet safety demands a hard line against mains electricity, gas, pressurized systems, and structural fire risks. Replacement is the correct path for unsafe, unhygienic, or highly inefficient items. But where safe, repair builds independence, patience, and respect for materials. A mended possession becomes more than utility. It carries family history, like an old tool kept working for decades with a simple replacement handle. We may not control the price of everything around us, but we can control how quickly we throw our money away. Learn just one repair skill this month. What will you choose to fix first? Subscribe for more.